Hey everybody, Soul and Shinola here, coming to you with thoughts for the weekend for this Friday, November 2nd, 2012. Yes, it's been a while. It's been 4 weeks since we last had thoughts for the weekend, and I feel like it's about time that we start getting back into this, if you will. The election is coming up this next Tuesday, so we've gotten past all the crazy political season, the part of the year when if I don't go into hibernation mode in regards to politics, I'll probably have a heart attack or stroke out or something, or kill somebody. But so it's been good to have a little bit of break, a little time away. Just had a lot of things going on in the family and work and everything, so just had to put it all aside, all the YouTube and everything aside for a while, and just kind of go offline, if you will. But as I said, the election is coming up this Tuesday, and we'll get into that later of the thoughts for the weekend. But we'll start off, as we always do, with unemployment. And the unemployment numbers came out this morning. As you may know or not know, the unemployment rate rose back up to 7.9% from the 7.8% of last month. And apparently we added, some surprise number of 178,000 jobs. Even though historically, if you look at it, the October adjustment always tends to be, they leave room in there of about 1 million jobs so that they can always make the number whatever they want. So it's no surprise that the number was surprisingly higher. They beat their estimation of about 150,000 jobs is what they estimated to add in October, and they beat that at 179,000, even though there's a seasonal adjustment in there of about averaging out to about, I think it's 500,000 or something, or 800,000 jobs. So of course they're going to surprise. Why would they adjust the number and come out with a disappointing number, right? So anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I'm sure the government doesn't intend to mislead you. They just try to give you the best information possible so that you're always well informed and you know what's going on in the country. But one thing they can't lie about is wages, and in another report that I've attached, you'll see that hourly wages continue to decline. I think they're up to a year-over-year now increase down to 1.1%, which is basically no increase. And if you've been to the store anytime in the last year, you might know that food and fuel and electricity and everything else in your life probably has gone up more than 1.1%, I would imagine. Of course, we got the fiscal cliff coming up at the end of the year. Taxes are going to go up, services are going to get cut, and your wages are going to keep going down. So I'm sure things are going to get better in your life, regardless of what happens at the election, right? So anyway, speaking of the election coming up, you probably caught the story of how the UN has gotten upset. There's a UN group that oversees elections, and this is not just in the United States, throughout the world. And their job is to go in and make sure that corruption isn't taking place in a lot of countries around the world, third world countries, if you will. And for whatever reason, this group started observing U.S. elections about 10 years ago. I think 2002 was the first year that they came into the U.S. and observed elections, which is kind of weird because, I don't know, do we really want UN observers observing our elections? But yeah, the story talks about how first Texas and now Iowa have denied the UN observers from being in their polling locations. And using state law, they're saying, look, state law is very clear. Here is who is allowed to observe elections. And that doesn't include international, agents looking to observe the elections. Now, the UN, of course, is crying foul because they're saying, wait a minute, we have an agreement with the U.S. government that says we can observe your elections. So now we're into that issue of state versus federal rights. Who has more right, the state or the feds? I tend to think, states' rights overrule any federal when it comes to elections, because technically the elections are up to the states. Each state determines how it will conduct its elections. Now granted, there is some federal regulation and law that was put into effect that standardized elections as far as the date on which the elections will take place, the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month. But it's really up to the states to decide, according to the Constitution, how to conduct the vote in their state, not the federal government, which is, you have a lot of states that are trying to enact voter ID laws, and you have a federal government, Department of Justice, trying to tamp that down, saying that it violates people's rights and it prevents poor people from being able to vote, which is a bunch of malarkey. Sorry, Joe Biden, I'm going to use your term. It's a bunch of malarkey, because I don't know of anyone who can't get a photo ID. You have to show ID for everything in your day-to-day life. I understand there's, as a libertarian, when it comes to like a national ID or something like that, I'm not in favor of that. I think the states can control their own IDs, but I think that, there needs to be some kind of way to determine that somebody coming in to vote actually has a legitimate right to vote in that state or even in that precinct, because there's things on the ballot in each area that are important to that area. Like there's people that are on my ballot this year that I've already cast that affect me locally in school boards, local representation in Congress, the state. That's not going to be the same as somebody who lives up in LA or somebody who lives in Nevada or Arizona. So it's important to know that you are supposed to be voting in that area. I mean, there's been reports in places like Wisconsin and Ohio of people being bussed in from other states, other areas to vote in the urban centers where it's a little more difficult to prevent the fraud, the spigot cities, if you will. And that's a big concern. And I think that anyone that tries to say that it's too difficult for poor people and minorities to get ID, I don't know what world you're living in, because you have to show ID for everything. To write a check, to use a credit card, to get into the airport. Where's the outcry there? Where's the outcry from minorities and poor people who say that it's unfair that you have to have an ID to be able to get on an airplane? Somehow they're able to travel without any problem. Why shouldn't they be able to vote without any problem without showing an ID? I'm just saying. I don't think that's too much to ask. Everyone gets an ID from the time they enter in middle school these days, for the most part. You get a photo ID. So I think it's pretty easy to say you can get a photo ID simply. Switching gears, Hurricane Sandy hit this last week, and it was pretty devastating for the people on the East Coast. I've talked to a lot of people. I know a lot of people back in that area, and fortunately for all of them, they weathered the storm fairly well, because obviously they're prepared. They're preppers. They're people who know things happen, know the government can't be counted on, and they prepare. They put food away, water away, backup power supply. They have all that stuff. But there are millions of people back there who aren't prepared, who have grown up under a state of dependency of the government, who believe the government's always going to be there to take care of them. And it's a crying shame when you see that people like Mayor Bloomberg come out endorsing Obama for president, stating that the reason he is because Obama's the only one who cares to do anything about global warming, because it's global warming, climate change that caused Hurricane Sandy. Really, Michael Bloomberg? Really? So before man-made global warming came onto the scene, we never had hurricanes, ever. We never had hurricanes, flooding, snowing, droughts. Never had any of that before global warming, correct? It sounds more like there was a political deal there that, the federal government would pick up the tab of all rebuilding efforts in New York City if Bloomberg would come out and support Obama. That sounds like the more likely scenario, but I can't prove that. I wasn't there, but you be the judge. It just seems like a complete political hack trick, especially when you look at New York City. You have people dumpster diving just to feed themselves. They still don't have power. They can't get gas. You got Staten Island people crying they need food, power. They need help. And they can't get the help because the help's being diverted. And where's it being diverted to? New York City's running a marathon this weekend. Yes, right. The New York City Marathon is being run this weekend. And it's more important that the city be able to run their little marathon than to help people get food and power and protection from the police force. You care more about running a marathon or throwing a Halloween party for you and your celebrity friends than taking care of the people that have been hurt and affected by this storm. So, New Jersey, I've heard some people crying like, oh, this election's going to be thrown just because of the fact that people aren't going to be able to vote and they're going to postpone the election. And I haven't heard any chatter about that. I haven't seen anything credible to say that the federal government's going to step in and try to postpone the election. You know, that just seems like some fear-mongering going on. New Jersey seems like they're going to be able to pull it off, and they were the hardest hit. They're going to use military vehicles as portable polling stations, if you will, giving people a chance to, you know, vote. They're going to drive the trucks around to set up the polling stations, obviously, because the polling stations in certain areas were damaged or destroyed. People still need to be able to cast a vote, and thank goodness we still have trees in this world to be able to print enough ballots, so we don't have to rely on electronic voting machines, which apparently, with all the stories out there, still aren't accurate, still can't be trusted and counted on. So we'll just have to rely on those paper ballots, right? Kind of the old school way. So anyway, it's just, I think the election's still going to go on. I don't think it's going to be postponed. Now, I'm not saying that things are going to go smoothly. I'm not saying that regardless of the result, there might not be some extraordinary situations that arise after the election. But we'll get to that when it happens. So that comes to my kind of editorial point. Does the election even matter? You know, some people would argue that it doesn't even matter to vote because you're getting the same person basically in Obama and Romney. And to that, yes, they're both career politicians of a sense. I think they have both some strong big government ties, if you will. I differ on some of the criticisms of Romney, and it's more from a personal standpoint, but you know, I'm voting with my party, the Libertarian Party, because in my state it doesn't even matter. Some people argue, well, they're just going to write in Ron Paul, and I'm going to, you know, I'll catch some heat from this, so go ahead now, start thumbing down and leaving your hate mail. You know, I supported Ron Paul, I still support the Ron Paul movement, if you will. But I'm not going to write in Ron Paul for president, and here's why. I kind of had this discussion with some friends last night who have also put out some videos talking about why they're going to write in Ron Paul, why they won't vote for Romney or vote for Obama in the election. But here's why I cannot write Ron Paul in. Though I support the movement, I can't really support the man anymore because he refused to run as an independent or libertarian to put his name on the ballot. He kowtowed to the exact Republican establishment that you're railing against in some of your videos, and if he won't even stand up for his supporters, if he won't even put his own name on the ballot, if he'll want to support and step up and help perpetuate the Republican machine and not damage the Republican Party, then I'm not going to write his name in for president. All right, I can't do that. I mean, I understand you're voting your conscience by writing him in, but you're writing in a guy that didn't want to have his name on the ballot, who just, once he realized, you know, he wasn't going to win the primary, he didn't come out and support Romney, though his son did. And I know that there was a lot of effort. We tried to get the delegates at the election and get them recognized, and the Republican machine shut that down. But he didn't fight any harder for it. And I don't know if it's just because he didn't want to make waves, he wants to leave it open for his son to have a chance to step up and take his place, but aren't they kind of perpetuating the two-party system that we have by remaining in the Republican Party? Shouldn't they be joining the Libertarian Party or Independent or Constitutionalist or some other party that more closely resembles their actual beliefs? Or should they just keep supporting that Republican establishment? I don't know. I mean, you'll argue with me. I understand. Trust me. The Ron Paul movement, I still support. I believe it 100%. I back it 100%. But that movement hasn't put up a candidate, and I'm not going to write in the man who won't stand up for the supporters who begged him to run as an independent, begged him to switch party, run as constitutionalist or libertarian, and he didn't do it. So I'm not going to write him in. He said he doesn't want to run for president. He doesn't want to be on the ticket. He doesn't want to be on the ballot. So if he doesn't want to be there, I'm not going to write him in. I'm just saying. That's just my personal belief. But I'm going to leave it at that. So anyway, that's all I've got for this weekend. I am going to start doing Thoughts for the Weekend every Friday again. So hold me to it. And we're going to get that this channel back up and going and start talking about the issues again that are important, such as the debt, gold standard, government expansion, and the need to shrink government. And let's start holding whoever gets elected on Tuesday. Not that it's going to matter for your life, you know, but whoever gets elected, we're going to start talking about how to hold their feet to the fire. Anyway, that's all I've got for this weekend. Y'all have a good weekend. SOS out.